How you guys doing? Welcome to Graffiti podcast, and with me today I have none other than TASK2. How you doing, brother?
Yes, sir. Here we are, doing good. Who is TASK2? Well, TASK2 is a kid born on the south side, raised on the north side, or started getting in trouble at a very young age, running the streets, and somehow found graffiti. And graffiti took him from getting in trouble and possibly doing things that were way worse into doing some things that were more artistic. And I've always looked at graffiti as art, and I feel like it saved TASK2's life. So, in a nutshell, that's TASK2.
What's the event that put you in this graffiti scene?
My story starts in the year 1988. In 1988, I was about 12 years old, and one of the first things I really saw that was graffiti related was a production that was being done by Prove, who at the time was creating his own crew, TDT, originally from Mad Crew, Accused from ACW, and this guy, Mott 2. They were doing this dope production, man. This was when the Hubble telescope was first put into place, and they had this Discovery magazine with all of these images of outer space that nobody had ever seen before. And they were painting it with spray cans on a wall. And, you know, I was young, I had never really seen anything like that, so I had questions, so I approached them, and this was my best friend's cousin, and it was like a family barbecue or something when this was happening. So I approach him, and I'm just like, hey, what are you guys doing, And he's like, we're painting this piece, and I don't know this terminology at this point. I'm a kid. I'm not really hip to the terminology of graffiti writers and stuff like that, but I'm just really fascinated by it. So, I want to learn how to do this. I'm watching them, I'm asking them. And from that point on, I just would follow them around and just kind of watch what they were doing, and which is where my first name came from. Originally, I was Kid, and Kid comes from them, me being a kid, them being much older than me, and just get out of here, kid, scram, always kind of just giving me the cold shoulder, So I was like, all right, I'm Kid, I just took that name and I became Kid. And I started doing graffiti on a real small level. So this is just alley bombing, bombing shit at school, the locker rooms and things of that nature. And I eventually got caught at school, and I didn't know any better. So I'm like, I got to change my name, And at this point, I'm trying to find a name. And so a lot of people don't know about me is my name is an acronym. So TASK was the antisocial kid. So at this point, after I had gotten caught, and I thought I had to change my name, I didn't want to mess with nobody. I'm antisocial now. I'm just going to be me. I'm not going to mess with people. I'm not going to let people know who I am. And now it's anonymous, I'm the antisocial kid. And that's where that was born. TASK, T-A-S-K is the antisocial kid. That's a little bit much to write on the wall, though, so it becomes TASK, From there, in my neighborhood, there was another old school graffiti writer that went by the name Do 102. And at this point, he was an X-Men crew. I believe he was down with the Teamsters. And his partner was Blue 32. So these two guys actually took me under the wing, and they were like, we're going to show you we're going to give you style because you don't have any style. And so I'm like, all right, cool, And they would give me stuff to trace and stuff like that. And this is already now I'm going in 8th grade and getting ready to go into high school. This is probably the summer between 8th grade and high school. And now I have styles that, they're not necessarily mine, but I have some styles, going into high school. Those two groups of people, the people I first mentioned, and then the people I just mentioned, those are what got me into graffiti. Like, because I had no idea. I would see the gang graffiti in the neighborhoods, but, and I would think all graffiti was that. Like, all graffiti was gang graffiti. I didn't really realize there was this whole subculture of graffiti writers that were kind of emulating what other people were doing in New York, and I had no idea about that. You got to remember there was no internet. There wasn't that type of communication connection where you would know what the hell's going on in New York or what's going on in LA or what's going on overseas. You wouldn't know that. So all you saw was what was in the neighborhood. I had no idea there was this subculture of graffiti until I met these guys, I guess that's kind of what got me into it. That's what got me into graffiti.
And when we're talking about your style, like how you develop it, I know they gave you the first steps, right? Mm-hmm. How you started developing your own way to doing things.
So, like, Dude 102, who's, like, one of my greatest mentors, like, most influential mentor, always instilled that in me. Even though he was teaching me styles and telling me to trace the stuff that he was giving me, was that originality was the key. Like, you could not imitate anybody else. You could not copy anybody's style. You have to be original. You have to always do your own thing. So he did plant the seed and start getting me into it. But with him teaching me that, the originality, you have to be original, always stuck with me. And so I would always try to be original and just come up with my own version of what I was learning. Obviously, in the beginning, when you're new and to drawing graffiti and stuff like that, you're gonna be like, oh, that guy got taught by Dude. But it took some time for me to develop, and then later in my life, I met this guy Zor. At that point, he was in a crew called the Ice Pack, and then shortly after I met him, he started a crew called SB. Zor took a liking to me. He wanted to teach me, and I remember this very, very clearly. Like he was kind of one of those people that was really brash and somebody that might have turned a lot of people off. But growing up in the neighborhood, like I was used to that, and it didn't faze me like that. But he was like, yo, you want me to teach you? And I was like, man, I already had a couple writers teach me some stuff, and I'm just trying to make up my own style. And I remember he's like, do you think I would teach you my style? And I was just like, oh, God. Like I said, he was really brash. And Rafa was there, who was his partner at the time, and Rafa was like, I don't listen to him, man. He thinks every style is his style. He's like, Rafa always had my back. He was like, oh, what you're doing is dope. You know what I mean? Like, keep doing what you're doing, you're going to be dope. So, I mean, like, I've been writing since 1989, officially, and now we're in 2024. So we're talking 30-plus years. That's what really, I think, created my originality. Doing it for so long, having the consistency of being able to do it for so long, and not giving up, you're going to keep trying to do new things, different things, original things. So my original style is kind of hard to define. A lot of people who know me for doing different styles. When you see my work, it's like you never saw it before. So if you see one task piece and then you see a piece somewhere else that I did, you might not even know the same person did it, because I like to do different styles every time I paint. Where nowadays I feel like what's popular is to just do one style and just to have a style. But to me, I like to try to master different styles. And to me, that's original, because I'm not sticking to one thing. Like I said, you might see one piece and then see another piece of mine and not realize the same person did it. So to me, that's original. I know a lot of other people's concepts of that would be, well, you have to have your own style, Like, you have to have one style, and that's what's original. I don't know. Like, to me, like, doing something different every time is what drives me, and I think that's original.
And is that the mentality from your era, or you think it's just something
I think a lot of people from my era of graffiti writing used to feel that way, but I could look at a lot of my contemporaries and I could see them out there, like, doing the same piece with different color schemes all the time. And I'm not knocking anybody. I love everybody's work. I think just Chicago graffiti is dope. Like, I'm not really knocking anybody. If that's what it is, that's what it is, But I know a lot of my contemporaries, definitely, when we were coming up, if you're trying to do the same piece twice back in the days, like, that wasn't flying. You know what I mean? Like, people would tell you, you know what I mean? Like, you did that piece last time we painted. So, like each piece was individual, and that's where I come from. Like, 'cause it's like a feeling. It's like to me, a good painting has emotion. Like, when you see it, it makes you feel a certain way. Like, if it's not a good painting, it's not gonna make you feel any kind of way. But if you try to do something where it's the same thing over and over again, like I think it loses the feeling. You know, it's like, oh, well, I've seen that already. You know, it's dope, but I've seen it already. Like, you got something else? But, you know, that's just my mentality of I'm not trying to say my mentality is correct or that I'm the end-all, say-all in anything. That's just my mentality on that. So originality with me is definitely something we could talk about all day, because it's like, it could be this, it could be that. What's original? Was anything original? You know, like, you could say everything's been done already. I see people painting stuff now that I've seen done in the 80s. You know, is that original? They might think it is, but is it? You know what I mean? Like, it's difficult to say what's original, especially when we're talking about style.
Let me ask you this. What about back then and now? If you get to, like, you need to pick one, which one will be more original? Of course, back then everything was new. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But do you see more effort back then, or you see more effort back, like, nowadays?
As far as piecing goes,
Placement, piecing, yeah, spots.
that's a good question. I mean, I think that we could talk about style and just actually what people are producing, but you have to understand the circumstances that people are being forced to produce under. So, like, in my days, you know, graffiti wasn't as accepted. Like now, like you will be arrested doing a permission wall, because people will just relate people painting with spray cans to being, you know, gang related or just criminal act. You know what I mean? So you might be painting a permission wall and people call the cops on you. The cops will come and arrest you. So the circumstances that people have to paint under are a huge part of it, right? Like, I've had this conversation with multiple writers, young and old. Like, if you're doing, like, illegal work, which is where all of this stemmed from and where all of the styles and everything come from, you don't have the right equipment. You don't have lighting. You're probably looking over your shoulder the whole time. You know, you got your head on swivel trying to make sure nobody's coming. All of these things contribute to the actual work that's being produced, right? All of that stuff contributes to all the work being produced. The fact that you're painting in the dark with no light situations, the fact that you're watching your back to make sure you're not getting caught, you know, not having the proper equipment, things of that nature. Where nowadays you could see people, they'll go paint for like a whole weekend, and the shit is fresh, like fresh to death, but it's like, it's not the same, you know what I mean? Like, you took a whole weekend to do that, you're doing like 8-hour days, you know, 2 or 3 days to complete this really fresh work. Where some of the original stuff from my days, most of the original stuff, because we weren't being granted the permission walls, was being done in illegal situations. So it's kind of hard to compare the two, is what I guess I'm saying. But I think everybody, young and old, puts a lot of effort out to get the work done. And there's definitely illegal writers that are out there doing stuff. In my days, we were doing illegal productions, though. I mean, you could ride the train lines and see, like, permission wall level productions that were being done overnight. So there's a difference there. You know, it's like nowadays people are in and out. You know, they're doing quick things. People are not trying to do like a full-blown background, characters, burners with 3Ds and highlights on an illegal wall. Like, you really don't see that. You know what I mean? You really don't see that anywhere, not even in the yards, not even when people are painting steel or none of that. You really don't see that these days. So as far as effort goes, you know, if you're talking about effort, I think older writers put in a lot more effort, especially because of the circumstances that they were faced with, you know, where now it's like more accepted. I've personally been painting a wall, like bombing a wall with chromes, and had people walk by and say, oh, good work, we can't wait to see it when it's done. You know what I mean? And I know it's illegal, and they don't even realize it. It's like they're so desensitized to it that, and then they're just chromes, you know, and they're not even like, I'm really putting an effort to do something really nice that they could be like, wow, can't wait to see it when it's done. But that's like a different, like, the way things are now are way different. It's way more accepted, you know, like people are desensitized to it in a way, and I love it. I actually love it, you know, like that we're not criminals anymore, that graffiti is accepted on a bigger scale, like society-wise, where they're actually like, graffiti is an art. You know, we fought hard for that.
I know you said repetition doesn't impress you, but is it important when it comes to bombing?
You're bombing stuff, you know, you want to do something quick, and you want to make it fast, and get in, get out. Get in, get up, and get out. And so I get that part. But when people are doing that on permission walls, that's something else. When you're doing the same piece over and over on permission walls, to me, that's something else. But like bombing, like, you want to have that stamper. You want to have something that people recognize, something that You know, like if I were to do like my theory of I'm going to do something different every time, that's why a lot of people don't know who I am. You know what I mean? Because it's like I didn't create that stamper that everybody's going to remember. I was there painting right with everybody else, but every time I painted, it was different. So it wasn't that stamper where it was just like you remember it, you know? But I know that I understand why people do it. And yes, but like to answer your question, yes, that's good shit, man. Like you gotta know how to do what you're doing, be able to do it blindfolded.
In your own words, describe graffiti.
Graffiti.
What's graffiti?
Oh Lord. Because like the dictionary definition of graffiti until recent times didn't include like spraying. And I've always been the person that said what we do is not actually graffiti. And people hate me for that. You know, now we do graffiti, we're hardcore and all this stuff. And I'm like, you really break it down, like what we're doing, the only reason it's illegal is because of the society we live in said that it was illegal, right? Like because people have been writing on walls before they ever wrote on paper, right? We can go to like any of the ancient civilizations and we're gonna see hieroglyphics and glyphs and things of that nature where people were already painting on walls and writing on walls. It's like human nature, right? So like sometimes like for me personally, I'm a huge advocate of graffiti, but I'm also like trying to get, like we're not graffiti writers. It's like a bad word. It's like, why are you saying what we're doing is graffiti when it's an art form? Like you could go to any contemporary museum on the planet. You can go to the Museum of Contemporary Art in any city, in any country, and I promise you, you're gonna see work that's been inspired by graffiti or street art or whatever you wanna call it. Graffiti is a part of the civil rights movement. Like the graffiti we do stems from the civil rights movement. If you think about it, if there was no civil rights movement, we would never be doing graffiti, right? Because we wouldn't have the freedoms and the rights to even come up with this kind of stuff. If you would think, you know, pre-civil rights movement, where people couldn't go to the same schools, people weren't allowed to drink from the same water fountain, they weren't allowed to sit in the front of the bus, you know, where racism and prejudice was thick, and which was the reason why we had to, you know, our parents and their parents had to fight the civil rights movement to get us these rights. Let's just say that never happened, and we were still living in the situation we were just, you know, sometimes I'm off on time, but let's say 50, 60 years ago, let's say back in the 50s. If we were still living like that, right, there would be no graffiti. There would be no gangbanging. There would be none of that stuff that we do in the hood. So in a sense, like the graffiti we do becomes born from the civil rights movement. And it's kind of like part of the civil rights movement. It's like a phase in that, where it's like now we have these freedoms, now they're giving the drums back, now we're actually able to create hip hop and rap and graffiti and all of these kind of things, where pre-civil rights movement that wouldn't have been possible, right? And some people, I think, in graffiti too, you have to remember, in the graffiti we do, in the culture, the subculture of graffiti that we do, there's different writers, right? I'll give you an example. Like some people are just straight vandals. They love vandalizing shit. Even if they didn't do graph, they would still be vandalizing shit. They'll be breaking out windows or doing whatever they do because they like to vandalize shit, right? Now me, when I'm going out on a mission, the first thing I'm thinking is not, I'm gonna do like $20,000 worth of damage tonight, right? Like I'm gonna really make these motherfuckers pay like $1 million to fix what I did. Like I don't think like that. I'm thinking like I'm gonna go do some dope shit. I'm getting my colors together. I'm gonna do some dope shit. I'm gonna do some shit that like, cause I'm thinking like that. You know, I'm not thinking how much damage I can cause. You know what I mean? Like there's different levels to this shit, you know what I mean? Like there's people that got into graffiti because they just love being vandals. There's people that got into graffiti because they like the art part of it. And I don't think anybody's right or wrong or it's supposed to be this way or that way. We're all our own individuals and we all have our own reason why we want to do stuff. But I'm not gonna knock the vandals, and I would like if they didn't knock me for what I do. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you're just a permission wall guy. Yeah, but you know what? I painted whole trains. You know what I mean? Like I used to bomb shit. I had more productions on rooftops than you had fill-ins on my line. You know what I mean? You might have had 3 or 4 fill-ins on the Ravenswood when I had 6 or 7 productions. Like we're both bombing, right? But you're gonna be like, oh, but yours is like art and mine is like graffiti. Like really? Like You're going to say that? Like, all right, word, well, whatever, you know? Like, you're doing the graffiti and I'm doing the art, cool. But we're still both bombing. There's just so many levels to this. Like, what does graffiti mean to me? Or what graffiti is to me? Like I said, graffiti is something that's in our DNA that I feel like was hidden in there. And then when we started getting our rights back, like post-colonialism, like when the civil rights movement had to happen, like that's when it all started to come out. It started to leak out of us because we had the option, the opportunity to do so. We were able to go out there and do graffiti. Like that became a possibility. But it was something that was in us already. Hip hop is also something that we always did. The circle, gathering in a circle, the drums, the chanting, the dancing, like all of that goes back to primitive human instinct. If you give a child a crayon and you leave them alone in a room long enough, you're gonna come back and they're gonna have written on the wall already. I took a big sigh at the beginning of that one because that question I could keep going on and on about. I just love like what we do. You know what I mean? Like graffiti art, I don't know. Some people will say it's not art. Like I said, there's those vandal people like, we don't do art. We do graffiti. Like, okay. But graffiti is an art, man. Graffiti is an art form, I guess. In a nutshell, there's the answer. Graffiti is an art.
All right, this is my favorite part of the podcast, the questions. First question will be,
when was Chicago's golden era?
Chicago's golden era was in the 90s. Absolutely. 100%, no questions asked. I think everybody agrees with that.
Titties or ass?
You know what's funny is that usually when they got big tits, they don't got no ass. But I'm definitely ass, bro. But recently, I've been into the titties, though, for sure.
Do you usually sketch?
I used to sketch a lot. I was the sketch guy. Like any of my contemporaries that know me, that you talk to, they'll be like, yeah, dude, TASK used to blow the sketchbooks out. Like everybody would give me their sketchbook, full color pages, all that shit. I was a big time sketcher. But then one day I was chilling with Zor and he showed me this book and he told me to look it over. I looked at it, I was like, man, it's fresh, you know? And he's like, you see what I did? And I'm like, nah. And I mean, yeah, I see what you did. It's all fresh. Like, what do you mean? And he's just like, look at it again. And I looked at it again. And I was like, shit's fresh, bro. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. And he's like, dude, I did all of those with pen. So then I looked through the book again, and this guy has like a full sketchbook full of sketches done in pen, right? Like, complete. Like, there's no errors. Like, so good that when I looked at it the first time, I didn't even think about it. It just looked like a sketchbook. But every single thing in that book was done with pen. That changed my whole life. That changed my whole perspective on graffiti. And I'm like, I got to start freestyling. You know, and that's when I think for a lot of years, I just was freestyling. Many years of just freestyling, fuck a sketch. And then I remember like coming back into this newer generation and painting with some of the younger guys. None of them have sketches, and I love that shit. I'm like, damn, these dudes, they're all freestyling. Like none of them really sketch shit. I'm both. First of all, I'm a sketcher. That's where I come from. I sketched. I know how to sketch, pretty good. I went to school to be an architect, so you know I got the T squares and all that shit. So like I'm a sketcher, but then I learned how to freestyle. And then there was like no turning back after that. Because you know why? You can't really fuck up when you do a freestyle. When you're trying to do a sketch, like you got to replicate that sketch on the wall. And if you don't, then you feel like you failed. You know what I mean? Like, damn, it don't look like the sketch. But with freestyling, you can't really fuck up. What I love about it too is like when people see your stuff and like, man, that shit's sick, bro. Like, yeah, I just freestyled that shit. They'll be like, nah, dude, you sketched that shit. Like, nah, bro. Like, I just came up with that right now. Like, just right now, you know. If you've ever painted with me, you'll see. Like, most of the time I freestyle, like, I take a long time with the first sketch. Then it's like go time, you know, like get it done. But I take more time with sketching the piece on the wall because I'm freestyling it than I do with actually painting it.
What's one thing that causes conflicts between writers? Money, girls, etc.
No, I don't think girls. I don't think girls and money are really it no more. I think it's just all ego now. I think it's just all ego, and it's just like, you know, fuck you, I'm better than you. Maybe it's in some places, sure, but I think it's just ego, really. You know, and then I'm not really privy to too many of the beefs that are going on right now. I don't see it on the streets. I don't see people like warring or like flipping each other, but I do see like stupid altercations, and they're always stupid. It's always some ego shit. It's fucking weird.
One unwritten rule that people should still apply.
If you can't burn it, then don't go over it, right? Yeah, that stuff right there. Like, that's one I think that gets neglected nowadays. It's like, don't go over it, dude. Like, I don't care if it's a permission wall and it keeps getting gone over. It's a rotating permission wall, word. But if you can't burn it, don't go over it. Like, that was a rule that we always abided by, and I feel like it doesn't exist anymore. Like, people will see, like, a full-blown, fresh-to-death production, and go do some chrome shit over it. You know what I mean? And it's like, a lot of people be like, well, it's just a permission wall. Who gives a fuck? I see people doing that shit everywhere, man. Like, not on illegal shit too. If you can't burn it, don't go over it. That's one of those ones I think that got lost in the sauce somewhere, man. Like,
Did the internet change graffiti?
absolutely. Because if you think about it, like, it's why we're doing what we're doing today, right? In my day, when I'm coming up, I told you earlier, there's no internet. I know a lot of people are like, that's crazy to them. It's like, man, there was no internet. That's like, what did they do? Well, we found things to do, y'all, but like, all you see is the graffiti that you see in your neighborhood, first of all. And then maybe you might expand out and, you know, we have the trains here in Chicago. You could get around different neighborhoods and maybe you might see some other graffiti from a different neighborhood. Like, you from the north side, you might go to the south side, see some different stuff. And this is all that's influencing you. And this is all you're competing with, you know? And then, like, eventually comes out, like, these national magazines, like Can Control was a really big one. And we start to be able to see, you know, other graffiti. I mean, obviously there's subway art and spray can art, the Bibles, but, you know, that influenced everybody already. Like, there's only so much you got out of that, so now that's your influence, but now you get to see other states, what the scene is doing in other places. Now the competition level is higher. Now you got to burn that. You know what I mean? Like, damn, I got to burn that. Like, fuck, they're getting down in L.A. And then now we got, you know, Instagram and shit where it's like the graffiti scene is global. It's connected globally. You're going to see what people are doing in Australia. You're going to see what people are doing in the Netherlands. You're going to see all of this stuff. You know what I mean? So it's almost like back in the days, you could tell that piece is from Chicago. That's a Chicago style. That's a New York style. That's an LA style. Now, because of the internet, everybody's everybody, and it's like, you really can't tell. You know what I mean? You'd be like, damn, that's an LA style, and dude's in Australia. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's connected. Everybody sees each other's work. Totally changed the scene. Just like Subway Art did it, just like magazines like Can Control and videos like Videograph did it, the internet did it on a huger level. It connected all of us. I don't know, for better or for worse, it happened. Like, I don't know if it's good or it's bad, but it's definitely a global scene now. It's not just, yo, I'm from the Ravenswood line. You know, nah, bro. You're like from the United States. You know what I mean? Like, we're from the United States. We're not even from Chicago. We're American writers. You know what I mean? And then there's European writers, and then there's Latin American writers, and there's, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many. The scene is huge now because of the internet. And like I said, for better or for worse. For better or for worse, because now how hard is it to be original? Everybody's biting everybody, right? Like, how hard is it to be original? It's fucking hard as hell to be original right now. That's another thing. Like, people socialize differently, right? Like, in my days, like, if you were trying to get in touch with somebody, sure, we had like landlines and payphones and shit. You know what I mean? Like, we had those kind of things to communicate, sure. But like, if you're trying to get up, like if I'm trying to get up with you, I know where you live. I'm gonna go to your crib. I'm gonna ring the bell. I'm gonna throw a rock at the window. Yo, what's up? What you doing? You know? And we would hang out. You know what I mean? Like, we would go hang out. If you weren't there, then I knew where you were. He's at the parking lot in 7-Eleven with the guys, or he's at the basketball court shooting hoops. Like, I already know where you are. You know what I mean? That's how we socialized, and we have crews, and we looked out for each other and things of that nature. You know, we hung out together, and people don't do that no more. Like, people hang out online. You know, so like, the socializing thing, like the way you socialize now is different, especially post-pandemic. Because post-pandemic, like, everybody changed. Everybody was forced to sit in their crib for 2 years, and it changed, like, the mentality of people. Like, when the pandemic ended, it was like people didn't know how to socialize anymore. You know what I mean? It's like they're coming back and trying to figure out, like, damn, I was so used to not dealing with people, and now I got to deal with people again. Like, I was just talking about the graffiti thing, but socially, yeah, like, the internet changed everything.
Can you tell us more about the battle in New York?
The battle in New York was epic, man. You know, we had probably about a month to prepare. I had to put together a team, a squad of people that I felt were versatile. You know, people that could do characters, people that could do backgrounds, people that could do styles, because I knew what we were up against. You know, we're going to New York to battle FX crew, Tats crew, COD crew, RIS crew, the Bronx team. You know, I'm like, yeah, these are the guys, these are pioneers of graffiti. Like, FX and Tats crew basically invented the modern day production. You know, like, we're going against these guys. You know what I mean? So I had to pick a team that I felt was actually capable of even. I always said it was a suicide mission. I'm like, we're going against Hall of Famers. But the only thing that I wanted out of it was I wanted them to acknowledge us. I wanted them to be like, damn, Chicago showed up. And I knew I was gonna put together a team that could do that. So I got Haytech, I got Cirque, I got Diems, you know, I got Rogue, Rafa, Zor. Who am I leaving out? I got Yokai, Uzum was a part of it as well. Sips was a part of it. You know, Sips and Uzum kind of, like the company that put it together had them already. They were kind of like, all right, you're gonna put the team together, but you got these two guys already. So Uzum and Sips were kind of already part of it before I was. But that was the squad, you know, and we had several meetings in person and, you know, through group text and stuff like that, sharing our ideas, coming up. I said, we have to have a production, y'all. You know, like we have to come up with a production. We're going against like dudes that do productions. Like we can't just go do styles and stick some characters in the middle. Like we have to have a concept. And it took a little while when we came up, I think it was Haytek's idea. We came up with this idea of an alien invasion. And I remember in the beginning, a lot of the guys wanted to get, like do this really violent imagery, man. Like they wanted to do like aliens, like using phasers to shoot like New York, people with New York hats on and stuff. And I'm like, yo, man, these dudes are legends, man. We can't go to New York with that level of disrespect. But, you know, I did like the alien thing. I was like, that's cool. It's like an alien invasion, you know? Like we're coming, like we're the aliens. And so we pieced that whole idea together, and I came up, I don't remember if it was me. I think it might have been, I think it was me that came up with the idea, we come in peace. But that's like alien talk, right? Like we come in peace, but they're really trying to take over the world. So like, I was like, it was like this thing where it was like, we come in peace. Like we're not trying to be disrespectful or aggressive, you know what I mean? Like we come in peace. And then I think it was Yokai's idea where we would change the spelling of the word peace to like peace, like Piece. Like we come and we're gonna peace, you know what I mean? Like we come in peace. And I was like, that's kind of clever, you know, like hey, we'll do that. And we did that. So we drove straight to New York, like from my crib straight to New York, straight to the wall. Like we didn't stop. We went straight to the wall. We rolled out the whole background. We had a commercial sprayer. We used that to do a lot of the layouts for the buildings and the big mothership. And, you know, New York was bugging because they were already there for hours. They probably started the day before, honestly. And we came and we did some shit right off the boat. Like the whole background was laid out in like a couple hours. You know, they were like, fuck, these dudes are doing something. And they didn't really have a plan. They didn't have a plan, dude. Like effects crew and tats crew, they didn't communicate well. They didn't have a production. And you're thinking like, these are the two dopest production crews on the planet. They didn't even have an idea. They were kind of underestimating us, and they were just like, we could just do some regular shit and burn them guys. And then they ain't gonna do nothing, you know? So they were totally taking us like for granted, like, oh, these dudes they're just from Chicago, you know? And we showed them, you know? But the thing was that it started raining after we did that background. It started raining hard. Like if it was just drizzling, we would have kept going. But it started raining real hard, and it didn't stop. And it didn't stop the whole next day. It was raining. We couldn't paint. And I'm like watching the weather, and I'm watching like the maps, you know, like to see where the clouds are and stuff. And I seen there was a break at like 10 p.m. And it was gonna stop from like 10 p.m. Saturday night to like 6 a.m. Sunday morning. So like I got everybody together. I'm like, look, this is the one opportunity we're gonna have. I know it's crazy. I know nobody wants to paint at night until fucking 6 in the morning. But it's either that or we ain't gonna finish. So everybody got on board, and we went out there at fucking 10 p.m., 11 p.m. at night, and we got to it, man. And the vibe was sick, dude. Like everybody coming together, like in the middle of the night. Like it was like we were bombing it, you know? Like nobody else was there. Like in the daytime, there was all these people. There were DJs and all this stuff. People trying to talk, people trying to get autographs, interviews, talk to you about your Instagram. And people were distracted. And so when we went at night, nobody was there. It was just us. And everybody came together, man, and we really crushed it. You know what I mean? Like Rafa couldn't make it back, and we had to have Rogue step in and help with some of the work he was doing. That was what I was saying. Like you have to have a versatile team. People that maybe something happens to this guy could step up and fill the void. Like having a team that's that versatile, where it's like, you know, it's nothing against. A lot of people wanted to go, But I felt like we had to have the right team that was versatile enough that if something went wrong, this person could pick up the pieces, this person could fill that void, and so on. So we're out there painting, right? And then one of the guys, like, this wall was so big that you couldn't see the other side. So where New York was painting, we really couldn't see. And like, so I'm like, one of the guys walked over to the other end for whatever reason. I think he had to take a leak or something. He walked over there and he comes back. He comes jogging back like, yo, like somebody did Such's piece. And Such is like this old school dope ass writer from RIS crew. It was actually my favorite piece on the wall, by the way. And it ended up being Cope 2. But we didn't know that at first. You know, dude is telling me like, oh man, somebody dissed the piece, you know, and I'm like, fuck, these guys are gonna think we did it. You know what I mean? Like, I ain't trying to go out like that, you know what I mean? Like, I went over there, I checked it out, and it was a big ass Cope 2 tag. But it didn't look like his tag, you know what I mean? So I was just like, man, they still might think we did it. Sure enough, man, some of these dudes came from the New York team talking about like, yo, where's he at? Where's he at? Like, what are you talking about? Who? You know, I was playing stupid. Like, who? What you talking about? They're like, Cope 2. I'm like, nah, I didn't see no Cope 2. And they're like, well, he said he was up here. He called this dude. He said he was up here waiting for us and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, man, like, I didn't see nobody. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't see nothing, no Cope 2 up here. And they were just like salty as hell, dude, because as much as, you know, we were dealing with our adversities, you know, like obviously when you get all these guys together on a team, not everybody sees eye to eye. Not everybody is on the same page. You got, you know, 10, 12 guys, grown ass men, you know, we're probably not all going to be on the same page. You're going to deal with some stuff. You know, it comes with the territory. So, and then the rain, the not sleeping, you know, all of this stuff. We were dealing with our adversities. They were also dealing with theirs, like the effects crew and Tats crew not getting along. You know, those dudes used to be mortal enemies. And then Cope 2 coming and dissing their wall. Like, it was crazy, dude. It was a crazy experience. But the part that made it all worthwhile was that Sunday when we came back to take pictures of the wall, the New York guys were up there. And, you know, we're coming with the drone. We got the drone following us, walking down the alleyway and stuff. And I could see the look in their eyes. They're like, oh, fuck, here these guys come. You know? And we get up to them, and they're like, oh, man, you guys did all that last night? Like, when do you think we did it? You know what I mean? Like, it was raining and shit. Like, yeah, we did it all last night. And they were like, man, like, you guys fucking snapped off, man. Like, I don't know. You know, and this dude, Blame from Effects Crew, he told me, he's like, yo, Task, man, that's how you come to New York, man, with no fear. And that was crazy, because Blame is like one of them, like, roughneck, hard-headed motherfuckers, you know what I mean? That a gangbanger dude. I think he's a Latin king, actually. And he's not nice, you know what I mean? Like, people know about him. He's a beast. He's one of them bully-ass dudes. But for him to give me that, like, remember I said that's all I wanted. I just wanted to be acknowledged, where they were just like, damn, Chicago showed up. But then Effects Crew actually put it on their Instagram page, you know. Can't make this shit up. You could go to Effects Worldwide on Instagram, and I think that was in April. So you would have to go back to April of last month when they made the post, and they said we won. They said something to the effect of, we got them with style, but styles don't win battles. They did a whole production on us. You know, Chicago took this one, something to that effect. And I never thought we could win, not against those guys. And somehow we banded together on some Band of Brothers shit, and we made some magic happen. And from that point on, like, New York is going to look at Chicago different. I have friends in New York, plus my guy Zor lives out there. He said that was the talk of the town for months, how we went out there and beat New York. To the point where, like, the guys who were in the battle were so mad, they were, you know, really pushing the issue, like, we got to do the rematch. I can't tell everything. There's a lot of stuff, other stuff that happened. But that's the gist of it, man. You know, it was a crazy adventure. You know, I want to thank, like, people like SAPER, people like Take-Two, who really wanted to make it happen, and they helped us, you know, like, with money, with paint. And they really just wanted to see us go out there and represent Chicago the right way. I got to thank those kind of people, man. If it wasn't for them, I don't know if we could have did it. You know, money was tight. We didn't really get no money for that. We had to come out of pocket for that, and it wasn't cheap. So thank you to those guys who really helped make that happen.
Let's talk about Battle for the City, an annual event that happens in the city of Chicago. Can you tell us more about it, since you're a big part of it?
Oh, yeah. We got Battle for the City 2024 that I've been working on Sunday, August 25th. Should be pretty wild, man. We got a lot going on. We have 12 crews this year. It's the biggest battle for the city we've ever done in the history of the event. $12,000 prize, which would be $10,000 in cash and $2,000 in spray paint. Nobody on the planet is giving away that kind of money for a graffiti battle. We have people coming from out of town to participate. We have teams coming from Los Angeles, from Inland Empire, California. We have judges coming from New York. We have the legendary T-Kid 170, who's going to be one of the judges. We have Zor 64, Do 102, Casper, Take Two. It's going to be crazy, man. 2.5 blocks of styles. We have an insane amount of vendors, food vendors, art vendors, clothing vendors. We're actually going to build a stage, and we're also going to have Pugsley Adams, Quellen Maker, and AM Early Morning performing. I think Aztec De Niro's also going to come by. It's going to be crazy, man. It's going to be something that people are really going to be excited about. So that's in the pipeline.
Any phrase or quote you go by?
Yeah, you know, I'm if you know me, you know I always say, you know, everything happens for a reason. And I live by that, I die by that. I never try to get stressed out about money, about situations or anything, because everything happens for a reason. You just got to stand back, look at everything and realize, you know what, this is happening for a reason, and try to figure out what that reason is. A lot of the times in life, people get distracted by money, by addictions, whether it be drugs or sex or whatever, and you just get blinded and you don't see the signs that are right in front of you. But everything happens for a reason, and you just have to open your eyes and see what that reason is.